There we go, Carlos. One of these days, I am not going to consent to this recording, but it is not today. Susan, Carlos, thankful for both of you as always. All right, let's get started. We don't have that much to go over, but we also, it's the holidays, right? And we want to get ready to that. Okay, first off, I want to start with approving the minutes from the two meetings from last month. Just need a first. Does anybody have any edits for the minutes for the meetings in October?
No, I move their adoption.
Do I have a second? Nadia is our second. All right. All in favor? Aye.
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 Perfect. Okay. So Carlos, the minute.
Can we vote in the chat just so I have
yeah. Just drop
it.
Drop your A in the chat, guys. A-I-E-O-U. Chief Carmen, it is very weird. For a second, I thought you shaved your head, but it was just because you were leaning back.
That's the sign you're going bald.
As a member of the bald-headed crew, I suggest you embrace it. It's better off that way.
Look, if it weren't for my better half, it would be all shaven. But
I respect that. I respect that. Okay, Carlos, the ayes have it for the minutes being adopted for October. Okay. All right. The next stop, and you guys all received the agenda. Next up is subcommittee updates. As chair, I will take the privilege of speaking first. As you guys know, Jasmine has resigned from the commission. Nadia and I sent a letter to the council informing them that both Nadia and Justice have resigned. That Jasmine and Justice have resigned. With Jasmine's resignation, that drops my subcommittee to a subcommittee of one. And we do not have any updates at this time. I will go to Alicia and your subcommittee for the next update, and then you can call on the person after that.
Sure. Hi, Dalvin. Hi, Nadia. Hello, everyone. Good evening to everyone. The H&D subcommittee, we are having a highly anticipated meeting on December 1st. And after some speaking with each other, we've decided that we're going to partner from here on with other organizations. And we are starting with this meeting with the Silver Spring Justice Coalition. We are very hopeful that this partnership will continue as they've done some very impactful work, and we are hoping that they can really help us to become much more effective and impactful in our work. So Caroline is the new chair of the Hiring and Discipline Subcommittee. Did you want to add anything, Caroline?
Nope, that perfectly covers it.
Sorry, and that is a new update. As you guys know, like, your subcommittees are allowed to have chairs that lead that work. Just whenever there's a change in leadership, just send Carlos an email so he knows. So that way, if anybody ever asks him, we followed all the rules and the bylaws.
Right. I CC'd you and Carlos all through this process. Which
I always appreciate. Okay. Is that it for you guys? Is that the only update for you guys? Okay, perfect. Alicia, pass it to another subcommittee.
I have a question.
Yes, Mr.
I have a question.
Yeah.
The Silver Spring Justice Coalition, being a part of or having input, I'm concerned that they would have a privilege over any other group that we would want to call in for any information. To me,
maybe can I'm sorry, this is Caroline. Vernon, I totally appreciate what you're saying. I don't think we really mean partner in the way, in like an established kind
Not
of
an established
sense.
Yeah.
We really mean that we want to have input from a variety of groups. And they're one of them. And but we want to make sure that we're partnering with as many community organizations as it makes sense, so that our work is more informed, but also that we reach more members of the community. So we don't mean to say partner in that kind of formalistic sense.
Right. Not right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I would just be
Okay.
concerned that their input not overpower the input that we will get from our staff members, and that we will monitor that input as we would any other input.
Indeed. And as Caroline has already stated, we have also heard from a number of stakeholders. We have met with a number of other organizations, one of which is the National Black Law Enforcement Officers Association. We've heard from a number of different entities. We will continue to reach out to a number of different entities. They've actually met with us, and as well as MCPD. We've heard Captain Jason Kokinos gave us a presentation. We have worked. The Hiring and Discipline Subcommittee doesn't just meet and not do anything. So we have listened to a number of very important entities, and we're going to continue to do so.
Yeah, and just a point of order. It's part of our charge to hear from as many folks in the community as we can, right? I think that one of the, and I've heard this multiple times, not just over the last couple of weeks, but I've heard it, as we've done this work. We are one of the few commissions in the county that have partnered with more community organizations than any other, right? Like we've gone out of our way to solicit community input on a slew of things, and it's not just SSJC, it's JUJF, it's MCPD, it's the National Association of Black Law Enforcement. It's all of those things, and I think that's something that we should hang our hat on, is the fact that we've sought that out ourselves and not had to wait to be told to do that. So kudos to your subcommittee for continuing that great work, Alicia. Alicia, please, you can toss the ball to somebody else. To
the emergency response subcommittee, or I'm sorry, was that you guys?
That's Mr. Ricks, Jen Lynn, and Shabab.
Okay.
Jen is not on right now, and if I'm not mistaken, unless I'm missing her, and I think Shabab is not on tonight either.
Okay.
So that leaves you, Mr. Ricks.
No report.
Okay. Thank you. And Robin and Ms. Branson, I will pass your committee to you, just since Justice also resigned. Justice was in your subcommittee, and he's no longer there. So I will pass this last update to you guys.
Sherry, do you want to give it?
Feel free to give it, because you passed something to me that I haven't had a chance to look at yet. So
we've continued our work on traffic enforcement, and we are close to finalizing a draft set of findings and recommendations for the PAC to consider. We expect we'll have those to the PAC by the end of the month. We anticipate that the PAC that those findings and recommendations, draft findings and recommendations, should be published so that the community can have further input into them, and that we will finalize those findings and recommendations at our meeting the beginning of January, and we will then send them to the executive and MCPD and the council.
And I have to tip my hat to Sherry and Robin and Justice, who's not, he's not a commissioner anymore, but they've done a lot of really, really great work on this particular topic, right? And I think it's a microcosm of all the great work that you guys have done over the last year, right? Like these are not easy to fix issues, right? If they were, we would have just, waved a magic wand and that's it. It would have been taken care of, right? But I very much want to uplift the work that they've done, just like I uplift the work that all of you done in, again, making sure that you spoke to as many community members as possible, leaning on our elected officials, right, when possible, to just see like what input they can provide, and also speaking to MCPD both in person, via email, whatever the case may be, to get feedback from them as well, right? And so I think we've been incredibly thorough, and the work that we've done on traffic enforcement, I think is a shining example of the work that we can do going forward once we get past traffic enforcement and then move to recruitment, retention, some other recommendations, things like that. So that's all you guys.
I really want to acknowledge that Robin has done so much work on the statistical stuff because all the data analysis, because that's just not my thing. And without him, you know, we would not have. I mean, you know, I'm good at verbiage, but without him, we would not have, you know, the kind of, you know, sound evidentiary basis that I believe we have. So, you know, kudos to Robin.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Chief Carmen, I see your hand up. Go ahead. Oh, you're on mute, sir.
Sorry, just to confirm, Robin, you're the discretionary policing subcommittee?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Welcome.
And that actually is a really good transition to the next thing in our agenda, which was the what comes after we make these recommendations for traffic enforcement, right? And Robin kind of gave you guys a good synopsis of what it is that we're looking at, right? So Robin and Ms. Branson.
Dalvin,
Yep.
Sorry, this is Caroline. Before we get into that, I just
Yes.
want to, I know I mentioned this to you and Nadia earlier, but and I don't know when the right time is, but I can only stay on till 7 because I have a very pressing schedule at the end of the semester.
Yep.
I am concerned about the fact that our meeting twice as often seems to result in half as many people participating. I don't think it makes sense. I don't think we're accomplishing more. I would rather have us do more work in our subcommittees and bring them back for meaty discussions. I'm glad that the traffic, I think that's been a great project. It takes a lot of time outside of it, but I don't know that we need to have two meetings a month, and I think we're going to lose more members. So I don't know if it's the right time, but I'd like to make a motion that we return to a once a month meeting and we make them really meaningful because I think we're just going to start hemorrhaging members. And attention from the public. So I don't know if that's a motion, but I would make it a motion if that's the right thing to do.
I'll second the motion.
That is a motion, and we have your second. Alicia, go ahead. You have your hand up.
Can we have a discussion first before
Yeah.
we go ahead with
absolutely.
motions and voting?
No, So
just to continue with Caroline's concern, I think that this is much more about the work than about. I'm not going to worry about people falling off. You know, I don't think it's all that demanding to meet twice a month about something that is so important. All that said, I do give a lot of deference to what Caroline states. I know her schedule is hugely pressing, and some folks have a far more pressing work schedule and commitments than others. Well, maybe the next time they form a policing advisory commission, you need folks that aren't so stretched out in a whole bunch of different outside ventures. This is super important work.
Hey, Alicia, I
did want to add that I do want to hear from Mike German, and we have not heard from him. So I was hoping that one of these meetings per month, we were going to hear from important presenters that we needed to hear from to educate us about.
He's coming next week, I believe.
December 8th,
So,
Alicia,
my point is that one of those two meetings, perhaps could we have the presenter? One of those two meetings per month.
Well, I would totally be open to that. Would make sense. And I would just want to clarify, this is incredibly important. I just don't think we're using our time in a way that is most effective to the issue. It's not the time commitment that is a problem for me. And I'm obviously putting in time and happy to do so with separate meetings, but I don't think having us talk to each other all the time, but I think having one meeting a month for presenter and one meeting for discussion, that might make a lot of sense. But I just feel like otherwise I'm not feeling like we're accomplishing what we might hope to.
So I'm going to go to Robin in a second. I just want to clarify. So the two, because I hear you, Caroline, and I want to make sure that you understand this is not me attempting to be dismissive of your point, but the two resignations that we had weren't related to us meeting twice a month.
Right.
Right. And so I want to highlight that, not to get in anybody's business, but it was not because of that. Right. I do understand your emotion, and we've spoken about this before, and and one of the, I think it's important to note that if in fact we are going to go back to once a month as a group, then I would move to have the attendance policy apply to subcommittee meetings, and folks can't miss subcommittee meetings, because that's the other part of this, that like, if folks were attending subcommittee meetings consistently and not missing subcommittee meetings, then I'd be like, okay, well, then the work can get done there. But if it's not getting done there, and I'm not going to single anybody out, but I do know that is part of an issue, right, for folks. It makes it hard for me to support a motion to go back to one time a meeting when the subcommittee meetings aren't happening and folks aren't attending as consistently as they should.
I would accept that as a friendly amendment.
Thank you, Caroline. Robin, go.
I have a question on that, because
hold on, Mr. Nixon. Robin.
Go ahead, Vernon. You go first.
That was not a part of the original documentation and assignment that people had to go to subcommittee meetings. We were signed up for what was, I think, 6 meetings a month or a year or something like that. Or I don't remember exactly. I don't have the document in front of me. But in fact, when we're talking about now 24 meetings a month, people have other things they have to do. Now, I can agree that people should come to their subcommittee meetings, okay? I try to be at all of our meetings, you know, the subcommittee meetings and what have you. But to me, in some cases, and I think those who left because they could not make the commitment.
Right.
And so if you can't make the commitment, then you need to go.
I agree with Vernon's point that, you know, I think the original sign up was 6 and then it was 12. I think pushing it to 24 is a big push. So, and I also heard what Alicia's point. It seems to me that making I understand the problem with subcommittees, but making subcommittee meetings mandatory just makes the problem worse. And then we also have the problem of tracking it. And, you know, because here we have Carlos tracking everything for us. Thank you very much, Carlos. But, you know, he's not going to attend all these subcommittee meetings and whatnot. So what I've been hearing is that people need to be given a reminder that they should be attending their subcommittee meetings and should be pushed. And I heard from Alicia and Caroline that maybe the solution is to have one formal meeting a month and one presentation a month. You know, a meeting that is not part of the formal requirement. Right, because we have 12. That's a formal requirement, but you know, I think the pushback on 24 is reasonable, and I think it would be good for us to have more presentations and more different perspectives on, you know, this is a wide range of issues, and I think if we made that part of our process, that once a month we did that, I think we would also have we would be more informed, and we could have more informed discussions as well. So I guess that's what I would suggest.
Okay. If I may comment, Dalvin, I see a comment from Susan. Just FYI, the law states the commission must meet as often as necessary to perform its duties, right, but not less than 6 times each year. So, I mean, we have been struggling.
Yeah.
Because we have not been able to we're not taken seriously. We've already acknowledged that we're not taken seriously by either the MCPD or the county council. We have tried to get county council's members to come and attend the meeting. We've talked about that. We've gone back and forth with MCPD. Robin, the most impactful being, I guess, the last effort headed by Robin with the traffic enforcement. But I mean, you know, some of this is, you know, where are the stakeholders, MCPD and, you know, the county council, anybody from the county council? We need people at the table with us, working with us. I mean, actually, this was birthed for a reason. This commission was birthed for a reason. It had a purpose. And I'm sure the county exec didn't envision that MCPD, and I do see Sergeant Kate here. I don't always see Chief Jones. But, we also wanted to meet with the assistant police chief. I mean, because we were hoping that perhaps he would have more time since he's not the actual chief, but he's the assistant civilian chief. We just have not had everything that we should have as a commission. And I don't know if it helps to just reduce us to one meeting a month and we're not getting anything done at the subcommittees. I'm sorry, I'm a little irritated because I have to run around and chase people to come to subcommittee meetings. And, yes, I'm using my Zoom account, but you need to come to the meetings. This is serious stuff. There's one person who's not here who I've had difficulty with getting to come to the subcommittee meeting, who is very vocal and vociferous about a number of other things, but won't come to the subcommittee meeting. So, I mean, part of this is deference to each other. We all are here. Each one of us were appointed or elected to be on this commission. Everyone here is important. No one is subordinate to anyone else. No one's time is more precious than someone else's. So either we are here dedicated and committed to do this work, which can be difficult and a headache at times, or we're not. And if you're not, bye-bye. I'm here for the duration.
So
I'm sorry. I'm a little irritated. I'm sorry.
No. Your feelings matter. Your feelings are valid. I hear you. I'm going to go to Chief Carmen and then I'll go to Ms. Branson. Just so two things. And so one, as Susan stated, we're required to meet no less than 6 times a year. So we're going to meet once every 2 months if that's what we wanted. We moved to two meetings a month because we weren't getting anywhere, because it was taking us longer to get going, right? And we made that change over the summer. We have been doing it now for about 3-4 months now, right? So that's the context behind that switch that we made. Yes, now it's more of a time commitment, right? Like it is. We're putting in more time now. But as you noticed, we've gotten more done in the last 3 months than we got done in the first year, right? Because we're meeting more frequently. It's more of an opportunity to hold each other accountable, to show up for each other, all of those things. So I just want you guys to keep that in mind, right? Because again, I am totally fine with us now that, once we get past the holidays, moving back to 1 meeting a month. But that means it can't go back to the first year where we're not pushing this work through. Chief Carmen, I'm going to go to you, and then I'm going to go to Ms. Branson. And then we will put whatever this is to a vote. Okay.
So I just want to apologize for missing last meeting. I've tried to be on every meeting. I had some health issues, so I was actually in the hospital. But before, you will see me in every meeting if you're, unless I'm on vacation, which or sick. But if it's every 2 weeks or every 4 weeks, that's why I was hired. I'm here for all of you, to serve all of you and the community. I would just offer to you in being on a variety of commissions and advisory boards throughout my career and seeing the ones that get work done and the ones that struggle a little bit. I like the idea of having one meeting that is presentations or an outside speaker every month, because I actually was shocked to see this group meet as a full body more than once a month, and not the subcommittees. So I just say that to say maybe it is the subcommittees that need a little kick start or re-kick start versus the entire committee coming together. And I'm happy to take part in any or as little as you want me to hear.
Thank you, Chief.
Actually,
That's fine, but if we're going to do that, please, then we have to make a commitment to go to the subcommittee meetings, please.
Yeah. So hold on a second. Ms. Branson had her hand up. Let me go to her, and then Robin, I'll go to you. Ms. Branson, go ahead. Sorry about that.
No, thank you. I'm probably gonna make everybody mad, but here we go. This is, I think, maybe the 3rd meeting where we've talked about attendance and people not coming to meetings. So it's clear to me that having these discussions aren't necessarily fruitful, because nothing much has changed. I don't like doing what's not fruitful. So I would like to offer something of a compromise, and that is this. It probably make everybody unhappy, so That's what compromises do usually, right? So that we take the suggestion that for the upcoming meetings, we have one that is, I guess, what we could call information gathering, where we have a speaker or whatnot, and then an abbreviated, and maybe that can be the abbreviated piece. You know, we don't have to be on here for 2 hours with, you know, we don't have to do that, you know. And then the second meeting would be a more of a business meeting, if you will, which is pretty much what we're having now, right? As to the subcommittees, I really don't have, I really can't express an opinion about whether, you know, people are coming or whatnot. But what I do know is that, you know, in my professional career, I have never witnessed more meetings equaling more production. There's not been something that I've ever seen in my entire working life, and I've been working since I was 14 years old. So I would suggest that we and you know, frankly, I think a part of our a part of the issue for me is that we don't get to have discussions that could be fruitful between meetings, say an email and other informal formats. That makes this very challenging. I think that the subcommittees can discuss things via email. You know, I think maybe we need to use that more. And you know, if Carlos or Susan have to distribute those email discussions and monitor them, which I think is what we were doing in the first year, that sort of become, I see Robin shaking his head now, like, no, don't even think about that. So, but I think that that is really a part of the frustration, that we don't get to interact with our ideas and our concerns on a more timely basis. You know, and that becomes frustrating, you know. So, you know, I say all that to say that I would support the you know, 2 meeting a month notion, and then maybe we can agree to take a small hiatus back to 1 meeting a month for a few months, and then see where it leads us. I don't think we have to decide for like all time in the future. You know, I think we can make a decision that, you know, let's see what fits. You know, that's my, you know, so 2 meetings a month with a presenter at 1 meeting, second meeting being a business meeting. We do that until January or February, whatever. And then we go back to 1 meeting a month for a few months. That's my offered compromise. I'm sure everybody's going to be unhappy with it, but you know, I just want to move from this, because to me the real, you know, the real issue here is that we keep talking about this, and we've got to come to a decision that people can live with, you know. And if it's been it's my feeling that people sometimes can live with things they don't like if they don't seem to last too long. So that's what I offer. Thank you for the time.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Branson. Caroline, I'm going to go to you, and then I'm going to go to Mr.
Okay, I was going to say I want to modify my motion, because I really like what Sherry Cherie has to say. My motion would be that we have one business meeting a month and that we have a presenter meeting a month. So 2 meetings a month as we have a presenter. So that is, if we have the right person, we have a good presenter, let's put it on the schedule. But if we don't, let's not have a meeting. So that would be my modification of what Cherie had to say. If that makes sense, then that would be my motion.
So if I may, I'm going to go, and Robin, I'm guessing you're seconding that motion. That's why your hand is up.
No, I want to say something.
All right. So let me go to Mr. Ricks because he had his hand up, and then I'll come back to you. Yeah, Mr. Ricks.
I'll second that motion that Caroline just made. But also, originally we said that we would send stuff to Carlos and they would send it out. But we get 20 million, looks like, emails all over the place. Some of them are epistles versus a summary. And I find myself reading all kinds of stuff other than what Carlos sent. Some of it are almost book style. And so, I mean, when we say let's communicate during the other times with emails, I don't need to know that somebody went to breakfast and everybody says, yeah, I went to breakfast, I went to breakfast, I went to breakfast. We're getting all these emails saying I went to breakfast. So we have to fine tune our work methods. And at the meetings, at the subcommittee meetings, our subcommittee had been meeting, and we don't, if a lot of times our subcommittee chair has something else that she invites us to, and we go to that as a subcommittee. So, I mean, if we have to have 12 subcommittee meetings and we had 24 regular committee meetings, our whole day and weeks are on this. And I'm sure that the staff has other things they got to do too. So, I mean, I can live with what Caroline just said.
So thank you for that, Mr. Rich. So just real quick, Robin, before I go to you. So correct me if I'm wrong, folks have been getting one email on Friday from Carlos with everything, right? Am I correct in saying that? So you guys haven't been getting individual emails or any, right? Okay. Does that work for everybody? Yes?
Well, something's wrong with my email then, because I get these emails from everybody saying, yes, I went to breakfast.
Well, I don't know where they're coming from, Glenn.
Yeah, right. Because I was going to say, I'm not getting those emails. Go ahead, Robin.
Actually, I wanted to pick up on something that Cherry said. I think it's absolutely right on the money that if the subcommittees can figure out how to move the ball forward without necessarily meeting, I think that's really the most efficient thing to do. I know that meetings are a good thing. I also hate going to meetings. I'm here, but I'm still not a great fan of meetings. I feel like using email within the subcommittee is, as I think, as Susan pointed out, perfectly legal. Doesn't have to be recorded, doesn't have to be reported anywhere. It's just internal deliberations. That's why we set up subcommittees in part in the first place, so we could do that. And so I guess what I would say is subcommittees can maybe think about how often they want to meet to move their project forward. Maybe they can figure out other ways to move it. But obviously some meetings are necessary. And so I liked what Caroline suggested. I'd be happy to vote for it. I would encourage people, as Cherry said, to use email to move and call people, talk. Yeah. I mean, communicate. We don't have to do this through formal meetings, which are indeed a burden. So,
and to add to what Robin just said, also on the subcommittee meeting part, no subcommittee was told how many times they had to meet. Some folks can meet 3 times a month if they wanted to. Some folks can meet once every 3 weeks if they wanted to. Ultimately, it depends on how much. Like, so I'll give you an example. When we were dealing with the SRO issue, Jasmine and I were meeting every week when we had the SRO issue, right? we don't have that issue anymore, so we're not meeting on that anymore. Right? So just, I mean, tailor it to your schedule, tailor it to the folks that have your availability. But the one thing that needs to happen, and Alicia, I see your hand.
It's meeting.
Right. Thank you. Yes,
It's
Alicia read my
meeting.
mind. Like you gotta meet, because
Yeah,
I think where it becomes frustrating is when folks in the community make themselves available to meet with us and they can't, right? Just for whatever reason they can. And that ranges from MCPD to, you know, SSJC to anybody. If folks can't meet with us, then ultimately what good are we?
But this is different. Look.
Yeah. No, for sure. But I wanted to make sure that
I just wanted to say,
then I'll go to Sergeant Brewer. Go ahead.
Yeah, regarding the subcommittees, you know, and Caroline, you know, had a fantastic idea. That was her idea, that we try to work with an organization that would bring in people from the community, and it's a very important organization. I like Silver Spring Justice Coalition's work, and they've attended our meetings. I mean, there's no simpler place to start. Who has attended our meetings and actually taken interest in our work and has been here? And they have. And so that is the reason that we started with them, and we thought that they would be an effective partner. But I think structurally, the subcommittees need, there needs to be some kind of structure. We can do emails, you know, yes, we email back and forth with each other, but folks are kind of off on different tangents. And, you know, Caroline and I are kind of on the same plane, and Nadia is on the same plane. There's another member that is not, it's kind of popcorn, you know, kind of like when one person goes off and does what they want to do, and invest a lot of time and effort in that, but not necessarily answering and responding to your, these are the agenda topics. What do you think of that? You know, when you're not hearing back on that, and it's not functioning as a subcommittee. So if we put out, these are the agenda topics, hey, do you have any ideas or suggestions? That's the time to come in and participate as a member of the subcommittee, not to shoot in like a half an hour after the meeting has begun and say, talk about something else. So I'm just saying that, you know.
I hear you. And I'll go to Sergeant Brewer right now, but I will repeat, folks don't, you know, and I've said this a couple of times, and, you know, folks don't have to like each other, right? Like we don't ever have to break bread with each other after we do this work. We got to respect each other a little bit. We got to respect each other's time a little bit, right? And so there has to be some level of like of joint agreement in that regard, that like we're not gonna, you know, disrespect each other's time by not showing up when we're supposed to meet with each other. Like that's just that we're adults. That's the kids do that. Sergeant Brewer, go ahead. It's nice to see you.
Hi, thank you. So I'm obviously a non-voting member, so I can't vote on this motion. Except I just want to add that I do like the idea. I think it would be more consistent to say, let's have one meeting and then as needed basis, try to decide if we're gonna have that second. I think, and Carlos can obviously is the one that keeps track, but I think I've missed one meeting. So I'm trying, guys, I'm here. I go to every subcommittee I'm invited to, but I'm not being invited to a lot of them. And I understand I can go on and look at the links, but I tried last time and I couldn't get on. So please invite me. If everything's done via email, I understand that. I completely understand that. If there's questions, if it's going to be via email and there's questions, maybe I can't answer them, but maybe I can direct people to where the answer should be, or at least reach out and try to get the answer. And I don't mean this to say this next thing for any other reason, just something to think about. I feel that some of the questions that are asked here in the meetings are unfortunately wasted time because of COVID. This committee couldn't attend the Citizens Academy. So there's a lot of misunderstanding and maybe just lack of knowledge about some of just the function of the police department and how it works. So there's some questions that I think are asked that might have been answered during that. So yes, there was an abbreviated one offered, but it was on Zoom, which we all know isn't the best. And not everybody was in attendance all the time. So I know it was recorded so people could go back and watch, but I think there's some stuff perhaps that is being done in these meetings that couldn't be addressed. And that's nobody's fault. It's just a misunderstanding of some stuff that maybe could be like, hey, we know that this is how it works. These are our suggestions. like those questions that the chief and I got to respond to, and I understand, and I understand that the responses weren't well received, and that's fine. But we got those at 3 o'clock on a Friday, and we had to answer them on Monday. So that's a difficult turnaround for a weekend when our understanding was we were going to get them a little bit earlier. So we did the best we could with what we had. And I understand there's future questions that are asked that maybe people aren't, and that's fine. I'm not trying to do that. I'm just trying to get everybody to understand input, and some of the conversation that's happening here seems to be a misunderstanding, or just, and again, nobody's fault. It's COVID's fault. We don't blame anything of some of just the functioning of the police department. And I don't know the solution to that. I don't know if it can be revisited, but I know the legislation in this committee was to attend the Citizens Academy. Again, COVID threw the wrench in that. But I don't know, maybe an abridged, maybe a bunch of questions sent again with, again, a little bit more time to respond, and then set meetings specifically for each of us to answer that. Because we clearly, obviously, even that first meeting, I think we got through 9 out of 20 questions or something like that, which, you know, didn't really give time for conversation. Or can we meet in person? I know COVID's a thing, but the academy is open and we can social distance and wear masks, and it's just something to offer. You know, I can set up so that it can be a longer, we all know how to communicate here, raise my hand, I gotta wait. And that should still happen in a meeting, it should still be organized, but in person, maybe we can get some of this stuff and that questions that the subcommittee have addressed, and not that everyone's going to love the answers, but at least get them addressed so that the committee can move forward in some things like, okay, this is the focus we should have, and this is the policy. Let's look at, you know, moving to this or making this suggestion. That's like I said, I've been here, so I've heard everything.
Weren't those sessions recorded? Those were recorded, so we can go back. I for one, not only attended all of the sessions, I went doubled up on sessions, and because we were able to go back and listen to some of the recorded sessions as well.
And I understand it. To your point, you know that some people, and to your own point, you know that you're chasing some people down for subcommittee. So do we know everybody watched all of them? I mean, it's just, and it's not, and it's again, it's COVID. It is what it is. But even the Zoom, even that was an abridged version of the Citizens Academy, which is pretty robust. So there was an intent when they put that in the requirement for this committee. There was an intent behind it,
right? And
COVID threw a wrench in it. And I'm just wondering how much that's delaying some things for this committee.
And I appreciate that point, Sergeant Brewer. I think also, I mean, I will say you were really helpful to us, to Jasmine and I, like just in terms of answering questions that we had pertaining to training and stuff like that and all that jazz. Okay, we've spent 37 minutes on this topic, which means we have 13 minutes left in tonight's meeting, and I thought we were going to end early. So we need to decide what it is that we're going to do. So Caroline, repeat your motion one more time so everybody can hear it, so that way everybody knows what we're voting on, please.
My motion is that we have one business meeting a month, and we have an as appropriate or as necessary second meeting a month for an outside speaker.
Okay. And before we vote, Susan, I have a question for you or Carlos as a point of clarification. If, for example, my subcommittee wanted to email Caroline's subcommittee, can I do that without violating the Open Meetings Act?
As long as it doesn't constitute a quorum of the PAC, then you're fine.
Right. So and it can't be.
Good.
I'm sorry, you can't be making decisions. You have to, you know, recommend decisions that you bring forth before the entire PAC. So that part will be on the open meeting. So
got it. Yes. So for example, if I emailed Caroline, right, because my subcommittee had a question for hers, and I only emailed Caroline because she is the subcommittee chair, clearly we don't have a quorum there, so that's fine. And as long as Caroline and I do not make a decision, that's fine too. Perfect. Okay.
And then, Dalvin, just one other thing that I think we could do is that if one subcommittee is having a speaker, they could invite another subcommittee. So what's the number of our quorum? So what's below quorum?
7.
Well, so not anymore because we have 2 vacancies now, so it's 6.
Right.
So if we're
that's a little tricky.
6 and below, we can invite members of another subcommittee to our meeting.
Sorry, no, it would be 5. So 6 would be
5.
quorum.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
But it could be where, for example, like say Robin goes for his subcommittee, and that's one person. And then like I would go for mine, that's two, and then that's it. We're under the number of commissioners. We'd be under them because it'd be us two and then three of you or whatever, right? So we can make it work.
The other thing is, if you're going to a meeting, this can easily be a meeting of the other organization to which you're attending. You can have as many people, and you can send a message to as many people on the commission as you like to, that the Justice Coalition is having a meeting this week and we are going. Anybody else who wants to show up, it's a public meeting. Right. It's not our meeting.
I'm sorry, folks. I think we have a motion on the floor.
Yep.
That we were, and I'm calling the question on the motion.
Okay.
All right.
Point of clarification. So Caroline stated her motion was for one business meeting and then a second meeting. She said only if, but I'd like to say a second meeting with a presenter. And if there is not a presenter, then we don't meet. That I think that was what she originally stated. So either we have
that's
a presenter.
What I meant to say. Yeah. If there's a presenter, we have it.
Right. Either we have a presenter to educate us on the issues, and we meet, or we don't.
So I'll give you an example. In December, we have a presenter already. So that means we will meet one more time for a business meeting.
Right.
Yes, that's exactly what I meant, Alicia.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. That is the motion. Please vote in the chat for that motion. Oh, wait, hold on, because Sherry made a really good point. When will this take into effect? Because to Sherry's point, if we know that we're doing it this way because I do like Sherry's point about this not being a forever thing. We can course correct in like 2-3 months if we see that it's not working.
We can always come back.
Yeah.
That should be a second vote, I think. Okay. You know, we vote on this, and then the second vote is on the
duration,
the time, right?
Okay. All right. So the first motion that we're voting on is Caroline's motion for one business meeting and a second meeting if we have a presenter that month.
And just mentioning that Council Member Vice President Albornoz has indicated interest in attending our meeting. Yay. Yeah, there's someone here. Liliana Cruz entered that in the chat.
Yeah, and his representative has been here the last 2 meetings.
But it would be nice if he came.
Hold on, Mr. Ricks. I'll go to you as soon as we tally up these yeses.
I called the question under parliamentary rules.
And
in debate.
Carlos, how many commissioners are present today?
We have 7. So it's six people have voted. Mr. Ricks, I haven't seen your vote.
You're muted.
Just tried to hit.
Oh, you're muted again, Mr. Ricks.
I just hit chat and I had voted aye on the motion. Let me put it in again.
You're okay. I got it. Thank you.
Okay, so the ayes have it. That motion passes 7-0, Carlos. Okay, now the second motion is for the duration of time that we will work under these rules. So can
I suggest that we don't specify a time that we will work under these rules? What we specify is when we will revisit this.
Okay, so it's November 22nd. I'm gonna motion that we revisit it in February. That's
February.
Second.
All right. So the motion to revisit these rules in February, please vote now in the chat so Carlos can note that. All right, we have 7 ayes. The ayes have it, Carlos. So that motion passes for us to revisit this ruling in February. Okay. All right. No problem. Okay. We touched on the next steps for traffic enforcement. We touched on all that stuff. The last thing that we need to touch on is that there are some pieces of legislation that are outstanding that we need to review. However, We are not going to be able to review them in 6 minutes. Okay. So, Carlos, we are going to table this for the December business meeting. Okay. I just have I have to remind folks, Nadia and I have been working on a draft to the county council for the recommendations coming out of the audit, right? Remember, folks subcommittees were assigned. We have not received everybody's recommendations. Okay. I'm not going to call you out, but we're missing one subcommittee's recommendations. You know who you are. If Nadia and I do not have them by next Monday, we will submit our draft to Carlos and Susan, noting that your subcommittee did not submit the recommendations. Okay. Because we've waited long enough. Those recommendations were due a month and some change ago. So we've waited long enough. Okay. So folks have until next Monday. And by folks, I mean this one subcommittee has until next Monday to get Nadia and I their recommendations. We have everybody else's. And it's not fair to the entire group that we're holding up the recommendations to council because of one subcommittee.
Will you be
rather not recommendations, but our comments on
our comments and whether we approve their recommendations. Right.
ELE4's recommendations. So
what's that, Mr. Ricks?
Will you send to that chair of that subcommittee the information? We don't know, don't have to go to everybody, but to that.
I already did, but Mr. Ricks, I will do it again. I'll do it again. Okay, and then with the legislation that's still outstanding, we will review that in the December business meeting. There's, Carlos, it's 3 pieces of legislation that we haven't gone through yet. Am I correct? 2.
So yeah, there's 2 that the council's currently considering. Well, I mean, there's more, but
2 that are outstanding.
Yeah, essentially, yeah. So there's the community informed police training bill, and then there is the taxation, public safety officers, public safety emergency communication specialist property tax credit.
And those 2 pieces. Carolyn.
Oh, sorry, I should raise my hand. I was just, so I assume the community informed police training is something that our subcommittee should look at. I mean, maybe it makes sense to have the subcommittees that are responsible take the lead so that we can actually make sure some people dig in a little bit more deeply.
Yeah. And that was, and if you guys remember, that was the process we had voted on. That was the process we had voted on last year. So yes, each subcommittee should take the lead on the ones that apply to their subcommittee.
So can I just say, go ahead, Sergeant Brewer, you can go first.
Regarding the bill on the proposed 30 hours of training prior to the academy, I think it's 17-21.
1721.
Yeah, right. So if it's going to a subcommittee, again, I work at the academy. There's some really helpful information that I can provide, especially some information with some conversations that people have had with those at Montgomery College, because just some misinformation, just a lack of communication. And I can certainly provide some information that would help explain if there's recommendations, where they should be, or at least, again, the recommendations are yours to make, but at least provide a little bit more information. Mainly, in my opinion, 30 hours is not enough, quite honestly. If you're looking at additional training, 30 hours is the bare minimum. But there's some issue with recruiting and requirements before. But you're not going to talk to an instructor in the entire academy that says we should have less training. So 30 hours, especially with the topics they want to cover. If you look at the topics they want to cover, it's in 30 hours, it's insane.
I think our subcommittee would be very happy.
Very happy to hear from you. Yeah.
To have a conversation. So, Sergeant Kate, I may have your email somewhere, but maybe Carlos can connect us so that we can schedule a subcommittee meeting to talk about the bill with you.
Yeah, and Carlos, if you could just provide my county email, because for whatever reason, my personal email, some of the stuff's going to junk mail. So just my county email might be easier to use.
Sounds good.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Chief Carmen, and then I'll go to Mr. Ricks, and then we'll wrap.
Sergeant Brewer, and to the group, I just want to clarify that that I think the bill is actually talking about prior to hiring, you would have to have 30 hours. I have to look back 30 hours of training before we were even allowed to accept you into the academy.
There's recruiting issues with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So there's some things I'd like to talk to, and again, the 30 hours, what they want to cover. I mean,
you went on mute.
Yeah, sorry. We do 24 hours alone in bias training, and that doesn't include practical training and bias, 24 hours. And they want to do 30 hours and cover all that stuff. I mean, I question how much is really being covered. If it's
Totally appreciate your input. Absolutely.
Yep.
That would be Mr. Ricks, go ahead.
Sergeant Brewer also, one of the important parts of training is the mental health issues of them being, of officers understanding, mental health issues and how to deal with them. And so I would suspect that our subcommittee chair, Jen, would want to you to be at, I know that y'all talk all the time. I mean, she's back and forth with the department already with other things, but that would be something that I think would be important to our subcommittee also, because looks like 90% of the issues that come up are mental health people, so.
Can I make one more point, Dalvin?
Yep.
Just that those two bills are both hiring and discipline related. So the taxation bill is pretty much, it's kind of like an incentive for officers. So I guess both of those would go to the hiring and discipline subcommittee.
Yep.
Yeah.
And as you guys know, just as a reminder, the process is it goes to the subcommittee. The subcommittee has about 30 days to respond per the process that we approved last year. So you would have until the second meeting in December to come back with some feedback, recommendations, et cetera, to present to the group. Yes, Alicia, I see your hand up.
And I would like to ask everyone to please listen to the public hearing in which several stakeholders comment. They give very, very, very helpful input regarding Bill 1721. So that was sent to us. Carlos sent that to us. Please listen to it. It's very helpful.
Okay. It is 7:31. I'm thankful for all of you. Thank you for all the work that you've done over the last year and some change. I know this has not been easy, but there's nobody I would rather do this work with than all of you. Okay. Even though some of you drive me crazy. I'm looking at you, Mr. Ricks. I appreciate you all. And I honestly, I hope you have a wonderful time with your families if you're celebrating this week. And I hope you guys don't do any of this stuff over the next couple of days. Like just
I see Carmen has his hand up.
I think he just forgot to put it down.
Oh, sorry, I was taking notes.
No, but thank you guys so much for all your hard work, and hopefully we'll meet in person in January, so we can come together in person. It'll probably make some of this a little bit easier too. Have a wonderful, wonderful night and a wonderful holiday with all of your families, okay?
At least have some cranberry with you dinner.
Cranberry and something else, Mr. Ricks.
Yeah, well, that'll sweeten us all up.
Have a wonderful night, guys.